It's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers, and this morning I'm looking at a book which has come to us from Routledge, who produce very useful textbooks and revision books for undergraduates. This particular book is called Business Law, and it's been written by three people: David Kelly, who is probably known to many of you from the English legal system with Gary Slapper, Ruby Hammer and John Hendy. The business law book I'm looking at, I'll look at it in a minute, is now in a second edition. My wife Elizabeth and I have given it a title for students and non-students, an accessible guide to all key aspects of business law with a companion website. That's our title of our review. This is the book itself, and as you can see, that's the front cover of the second edition, spine, and the back. Now you can see the little logo sign which is there. It's also on the front there, which says there's a companion website. Now the companion website is very important, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Let's just go through the book itself. It's just under 600 pages. That's the back of it there. Nice sort of the use of different colours. You've then got some quite useful information. For instance, right at the back is health and safety, and then there's a summary dealing with that particular aspect. Let's go to the front of the book. That sets out the main mission statement, if you like, from Routledge, which is worth looking at, about what they're intending to do. These are law in context publications. There's the front page itself. Then you've got a contents page, and as you see, it's split into different parts. Then there are detailed contents. The actual part numbers are, let's just have a look at the total number. There are 5 specific parts. Then you've got the detailed contents, which goes through in quite a lot of detail, as I say. Then there's a main preface, which is worth reading. You'll get an idea of what the authors are aiming for. Then a guide to how to use the book. Now, it is really quite important in this day and age to know how to use these types of book, because we've got the paper edition, but you've now got a companion website. Do follow the instructions with the web address, and you'll see you've got multiple choice questions, diagrams, web links, case studies, and a whole range of other things. It's very helpful. There's the table of cases. Then you've got, after that, a lot of cases, statutes, of course, because it's company law and Companies Act, statutory instruments, and then you've got the conventions, EC stuff, all of that lot. And then what you have got after that is a list of abbreviations, which I think you'll also find very helpful. And then we start with the structure. Part 1, you see you've got a little index at the front which shows you what in fact they're talking about. Now let me show you how the book is structured. There are no paragraph numbers or anything like that. There are subheadings for the various bits and pieces. Then you've got certainly you've got some paragraph numbering there, and you can see there it is. There is some paragraph numbering. Then you've got bullet points that come in, and you've got certainly useful diagrams about the hierarchy of the courts. It then does lead into the main paragraph numbering itself, which is on the side. There are no footnotes as such at the bottom, because everything is contained in the main body copy. And at the end of each chapter you've got a summary, which means that you can basically do a bit of self-testing. And then you've got to look at the various pieces of legislation, the Human Rights Act, for instance, the case law, European Union law, and then right at the end of each chapter you've got further reading, and then you've got the websites. And what Routledge are doing now, and the same thing happens as chapter 2 there. Well, what Routledge are doing is the same thing happens now with a lot of their publications, because what you're looking at is the link between the textbook, which is what this is, and the companion website, which of course is more of an ongoing thing, with the rolling news about what's changing, and also you've got additional facilities which you can't really cater for in the paper textbook itself. However, I think this is an excellent book on business law. I've taught the subject myself. Very interesting subject, combining a whole range of issues. And this is what we say about the book. Recently published by Routledge, this book provides an up-to-date overview of all the key aspects of business law, and as ideal for students of law and non-students alike. I think it's of help if you're going to set up a business and want to have some little bit of a legal background as to exactly what you can and can't do. Depending, of course, what type of business it is. If it's a corporate enterprise, a limited liability company, for instance, I think it's something you really should think of very seriously. It's fair to say that this book, and books like it, fortunately reflect the relatively new trend in the wake of legal aid cuts towards legal education, of the way in which we're now going with the way the books are produced, because they use the medium of accessible, readable law text and the link to the websites, and they see that as an important point to stress throughout that particular textbook. Like other legal texts from Routledge, this book with its modern teaching approach is authoritative, thoughtfully organised, and therefore reassuringly easy to use. The three expert authors, I mentioned them, David Kelly, Rupert Hamner and John Hendy, have thought carefully about the importance of pitching the material at the appropriate level, not too wide-ranging and generalising at one extreme, and not too highly specialised and abstruse at the other, because remember, you have got business now being a creature of statute with the Companies Act, which is the largest piece of legislation Parliament's ever produced, and it does consolidate and effectively codify the law. But we don't want to go too far because that'll scare you off. It's really complex when you get into it. So what they've tried to do is have a light touch, and I think they've been successful. As a result, therefore, the content covers the most important areas of business law in sufficient detail to enable students to understand the law as it relates to business enterprise, and also obviously to be able to pass the required exams, whether they be professional exams or the academic variety. Contract, company law and employment law are therefore examined in appropriate detail, and newer and no less important areas such as health and safety, which is at the back, and employment law and the relevant aspects of environmental law are also covered. Students intent on achieving exam success will be well assisted by both the book itself and its companion website, which provides additional features from the multiple choice questions, annotated web links and all important case law. The aim is to help the student assess what has been learned and to track progress, and there's a certain element of self-testing as well if you want to do that. I mean, not everyone likes that, but it does actually help because you can then mull over in your mind what you've actually been learning, so you've got a learning outcome at the end of it all. Also notice that the guide to using the book, which I showed you, the blue section, if I can call it that, at the front, aims to steer the reader through the various features of the book. That's including the overviews at the beginning of each chapter. In particular, there's a new feature of the law in context sections, which are throughout the book, which throw considerable light on the relationship between the law and the business world. And I think that's very important to keep your feet firmly on the ground about what you do as an entrepreneur with your own business. Key cases are highlighted in text boxes, and there are bullet pointed summaries at the end of each chapter, and there are clearly marked cross-references throughout. Those aiming to carry out further research will also appreciate the extensive tables of cases, statutes and statutory instruments, as well as the table of conventions, treaties and EU legislation. There's also suggestions for further reading for the people who are really looking for a bit more depth, and obviously you can go off in various directions with it. Let me conclude by saying rest assured that the new edition incorporates all developments in the law, such as the Equalities Act 2010, the Occupier's Liability itself, and much more, including the relevant environmental legislation, which is very important at this particular time. And the publication date is stated as January 2014. Let's just have a quick look again. There's the front, the back. As I say, it's 600 pages. Just taking, here we go, this is employment law and health and safety. You can see the structure there. Again, you've got a classic example, a previous chapter which was actually on company law, management and operation of companies. You've got further reading and so forth. Then with the new chapter you've got the heading. So you've got, I think, a very useful book. You've also, just to give you an example of the law in context, that's to give you the practical application, which I found very helpful to explain to students in face-to-face lectures when they came to do my business courses. But I'm very grateful to the three authors and to Routledge for an excellent publication, and it's well worth looking at if you're involved in that particular area of law. Thank you to all concerned. Bye-bye.